Hello everyone, this is Jaypalmany, bringing another update for our comprehensive campaign. Today I've got something a little special for you guys, which I'm sure one of our factions will very much enjoy. Uh, so going forward, the updates are going to be a bit shorter. The last two videos were an hour and 20 minutes. They're pretty long. So from now on, they should be much shorter and much easier to digest. So as I mentioned before, my plan is to go with a campaign update and then release of some homebrew that will be usable in the campaign, and then campaign update. Kind of stagger that so that way, in case things run over, for the players, they still have some time. We do have 8 players, main players, I should say, 2 for each faction, and 2 secondary players. We can probably make room for some additional secondary if you are interested. And the time commitment is essentially what you make it. So if you don't have a lot of time, no worries. We can make it work. Just let me know. And in the main Discord, Armada Hub, just send me a message at Jaypalmany. I'm fairly active on that, or I'm at least watching. Yeah. So without further ado, today I'm going to go into one of the unique squadrons. So it's, well, one of the homebrew squadrons, generic and 2 uniques. And specifically, I'm starting with the Separatists, because these homebrew are for Separatists and Republic only, because I feel like they needed a bit more. And Republic got some pretty hefty updates with rapid reinforcements too. So we're going to start with the Separatists. And without further ado, the first one up is the HMP Droid Gunship. The stat line for this guy is Speed 2, 5 hull, 2 red, 2 blue versus Squadron, and 2 blue versus ships. It's got Assault, Heavy, and Grit, all for 14 points. So, now, I know that the Separatists have been clamoring for something with Assault, and I felt like this platform was the best for that, particularly since they actually do periodically carry battle droids inside and land them on the ships, or shoot missiles of buzz droids and that kind of thing. So I feel like this was appropriate. So that's why they have Assault. I also felt like Heavy was appropriate because this is not a dogfighting uh, gunship. It's really not meant to tie up enemy squadrons, and so heavy seems appropriate as well. And then finally Grit, because this thing is big, and uh, giving it Grit gives it the ability to move and still be useful outside of squadrons. So you really got to focus them down. The 5 hull is and 2 speed. So 5 hull, felt that was appropriate considering its size and defenses, and I felt like the Separatists really needed something a little beefier. I know they have the Belbulub, but you really don't see that used very much, and so I felt like this would give them another option. The 2 reds and 2 blues, I felt it again. It was this will make it, effective versus squadrons, although not super effective because reds have a high probability of missing, and there's no swarm here. But it has potential. And then the 2 bombers versus ships. So this, in particular, I debated with a little bit because two blues versus ships is pretty strong. However, the fact that it doesn't have bomber feels appropriate, or makes it a little less um, rough, to be honest. And then with assault, if you spend one of your hits, and that makes it even less likely to do damage. So this guy really can give a bit of raid, but the 2 I felt was just right where it needed to be useful. Otherwise, it would be essentially similar to a gauntlet, and those are rarely, if ever, used. And then finally, the Speed 2. Speed 2 is because of, well, for one, they're slow, in lore they are slow, and two, they with TF, if they were to go speed 3 or speed 4, you would be able to throw raid tokens and get extra TF dice at long range really easily. So this makes it so Separatist commanders really have to plan out where they want to be in order to maximize getting the use out of it. Also, uh, everything that the Separatists currently have is pretty fast, and so the fact that this is speed 2 makes it so that, again, that you really got to think a lot harder. And then finally at 14 points. 14 may seem a little high for a 5-hull ship or squadron, but with assault, with grit, with its good dice pools versus squadrons and ships, I felt like that's really appropriate, especially once you factor in TF. I didn't want to put it too much lower than that, just because otherwise you'd see many of them in a TF fleet. You only want a couple. Any more than that, and it starts eating too much into your squadron points. So I felt like this was just right where it needed to be. It is worth noting that if you disagree, please go ahead and comment. And if you think it's overpowered or not powered enough, let me know. But I'm looking for some balance here as much as I can. And with that said, I may make adjustments if things seem too out of whack. As I said, this is going into the campaign, so we're going to do a little bit of playtesting there. So hopefully the other factions are going to bring some squads to keep this guy occupied. And with that, we'll move into the two uniques. Now, the first unique is Predator. Now, technically, there's only one unique in lore that I could find. However, the HMP Droid Gunship was also called the Predator Gunship, and I needed another unique, so I felt like this was the best case. This guy, same stat line. The only difference is he loses heavy and gains counter 2 for 3 extra points. For me, this looks this looks worth it just because losing heavy is a big deal. And having that counter 2 makes him a lot more dangerous versus squads. So I really felt like this will help push up or increase your squadron fighting capabilities, which the Separatists don't typically utilize squadrons for that purpose. So I felt like this worked well, and it works in terms of just the fact that it's a gunship and it has turrets that swivel all over the place and whatnot, that kind of deal. That said, it is still 17 points. That's as much as a Delta. That is expensive. It is definitely expensive. However, if you want something that can do multi-purpose, it can give out some assault, it can hold back some squads, depending upon what you want it to do, then this would be your guy. And then we're going to move on to my favorite of the bunch, which is VTM 808. So this guy, similar stat line, difference being he has 4 blues for anti-squadron instead of 2 reds and 2 blues. And then he still has assault, heavy, and grit, just like the generic. And then 2 braces, all for 22 points. Now, here you 22 points. That is a lot. However, his special ability, the text is just, oh, I love it. So, this says, when you spend a defense token, you may heal 1 hull point. So, this guy is a tank. He's gonna basically do what he wants to do. He's not gonna lock down enemy squadrons or anything, so they could do what they want to do. But he's basically just gonna go on his own and assault or bomb or hit some squads if he wants. It's gonna be tough to take him down, as well as keep him from doing anything, whatever he needs to do. It is worth noting that the timing of this, it's when you spend a defense token. So the first time you're shot, let's say you're hit for 2. If you brace, you can then heal, but you're still at 5 technically because the damage hasn't been dealt yet. So it's really on the second, third, and subsequent attacks, which is really when it comes into play. But like I said, this guy's a beast. So I originally created these before Rapid Reinforcements 2, and I really felt that the Separatists needed a beefy squadron. Particularly something like this guy is pretty much immune to flak. He's real hard unless you're throwing like 6 dice flak or something like that, which is technically possible. Um, but and even then, he can generally brace it, and then in the future turns he'll heal one of them. So uh, yeah, he's a beast. But anyways, in any case, that is it for this video. Like I said, it was going to be short. If you have an interest in joining the comprehensive campaign, which involves economy, uh, and espionage, and secret bases, and research, and all that jazz, let me know, and we'll get you in as a. We'll try and get you in as a secondary player. You won't have to deal with all that, so if you don't want to deal with all that, don't worry. Um, you, we can still accommodate you. So until next time, when I expect to give a campaign update, it's been interesting. We have a battle this first round, which was a little unexpected, uh, but I look forward to giving you more updates on that later. So until then, best of luck and good flying.